for it.
Yes, guys, it's Suki and the posing pro Emma Hyman for another episode of Beyond the Posing. It's been a few weeks, Emma. It's been a few weeks,
Yeah,
but we are going to get back to being consistent with it because
we are.
shows are thick and fast. First off, how's everything with yourself?
Really good, thank you. Super busy at the moment. We're really in the thick of the season, the first half anyway. So yeah, I'm busy. Everyone's keeping me very busy.
Well, we're officially 19 weeks out from the Olympia. So, um, yeah, what we're going to do today, we've got 6 videos. So, just so you know, guys know how it works, we like to look at some of the competitors that competed on the previous weekend, looking at their posing routines, where we then critique, well, we then critique. Emma critiques as the posing pro who specializes in all categories. So, if you haven't already, please make sure you click on the link below in the caption, and that'll take you straight to the Posing Pro Instagram page and website. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with a girl that is familiar with us because we featured her in the past. So let me just find the page. And we're going to start in the fit model division. So let me know if you can see this.
Yeah,
Okay, let me see if I can expand it first. There we go. So we've got, okay, I'll tell you what, we can't expand it, but let's put it here. Okay, we're going to start off with Fitbottle. I mean, once again, Fitbottle division still very new. I think they've now awarded about 14 or 15 IP Pro cards. Now, Larissa from Australia, she took on the Amateur Olympia career show, which just happened this weekend, missing out on her pro card, but I believe this is maybe her third NPC Fitball show. So we have featured her in previous
yeah.
segments. Now, Emma, really keen to hear your thoughts on Larissa, given the fact that we've seen her in the past. We like to try and show some of the competitors we've featured in the past to see any improvements they've made. What have you seen from Larissa from her fit model posing?
Yeah, definite improvement here. I remember her being very striking on stage, and that she is. Huge improvement with the posing. I feel like as obviously the season's going on, we're seeing huge improvements with the standard of the posing. So I feel like we're starting to get a real insight into what we want to see and how that needs to be presented to the judges. Let's start with this first front pose. You can see there she's having these little moments where she's working through the presentation. We're getting a little bit more sass. There's a little bit more
I'll pause it
stagecraft
here.
happening here as well. So in this front pose, I think it looks really nice. We can see that Larissa is spiking the left toe, the left heel off the floor, which can just give a longer line through the thighs if someone is slightly more quad dominant for this category than they need to be. And we've just got to make sure that we have full engagement through the glute here when we do spike the heel, which Larissa has. Lovely taper through the waist. We can see a little bit of shoulder cap, but not too much. So overall, I think this looks really nice. Waist looks nice and small as well. She doesn't look over dominant in any area. So this is a really nice front pose for me.
So let's just see her turn to the rear.
Transitions are nice, nice and fluid. The only thing I'd say is when she steps to the rear is that the elbows are a little bit wide for me in this rear position. I think I've mentioned before when we've got quite a bit of space between the elbow and the waist, it can almost lose the frame around the physique. So all I would do here is bring the hands a little bit lower, wing the elbows in a touch more, just to give a much closer position between the waist and the elbows. Maybe also just a little bit more stretch through the well, not a stretch through the hamstrings, but more of an arch through the lower back, just to push those glutes behind her just a touch more. And I'd maybe play around with taking the foot position slightly wider just to see if it gave us better balance through the frame. But it still looks really nice, but just little room for improvement there. Transitions are nice, nice and fluid here. She's connecting with the judges as she comes back round to the front. Yeah, she looks nice. And the presentation, yeah, moves the hair there, really confident, really natural. Glute shots here before she leaves, little shoulder shrug. It's nice. It's really nice.
We've said this about before. Sometimes when you do get certain poses, maybe your hair or something gets in the way. It's about how subtle, how effortless you
Yeah,
actually initiate it in regards to moving
yeah,
away. And that's something that Larissa showed. So,
Yeah,
posing pros rating
yeah.
for Larissa, what are we saying?
I am going to give Larissa I'm going to go with a B plus because I feel like we could create a little bit more shape through the first transition, correct that rear pose. So yeah, I'm going with a B plus today.
And the main correction for the rear pose, as you can imagine with other girls before, is try and bring the elbows more in. Is that the main bit?
Yeah, so we want to think about pulling the elbows towards each other, just so they're not pointing out too wide. We just want to pull them inwards to behind the body.
Fantastic. Well done, Larissa. I look forward to seeing what happens next and see if you can go challenge to be Australia's second IFBB Pro. We're going to nip over to Poland. So let's grab. We're going to grab Asika. I think that's how you pronounce your name. So
Hmm.
just so everyone know, the Poland amateur show took place on the weekend just gone. And this was also awarding the Football Pro card along with other divisions.
Yeah,
She got two silvers and
yeah,
one bronze. So this is her
nice.
second fifth bottle show she's ever competed in,
Yeah,
and this is the first pro qualifier she's done. So first pro qualifier experience in the female division. I believe this was quite a busy show as well for female
okay.
competitors. Definitely the busiest in Europe that we've seen so far. But we can see the walk coming onto the stage. I'm keen now here your thoughts, Emma. Seeing her for the first time, what is your first take from it? And then we can start dissecting it.
Yeah. So obviously stagecraft, she's smiling, she's connecting with the judges. The arm movement is very fluid. It feels like she's maybe been on stage before because those arms are nice and natural. Um, and I think the posing is nice. Is there some corrections I would make? Absolutely. She looks confident as she walks in. I love that little look back as she walks away from the judges. This looks really nice. Um, she's got the IFBB Elite Pro style going on that we see from the bikini girls in Europe, typically the Russian ladies, where they have a certain style when they're posed. So I can see this coming through, which is what makes me think maybe she's been on stage before. So let's start with the first front pose. And what I would say here is that she's leaning forwards just a little bit too much. When we lean forwards, we can have a slight hinge forwards through the waist. If we lean forwards too much, we kind of lose the V taper a touch. So it's a fine line between slightly hinging forwards, but not so much that you lose your V taper. And also we want to see that nice shoulder to shoulder top line as well. So we kind of lose this because it ends up falling forwards towards the judges. So we've got to make sure from the ribs we lift upwards. So we think about a nice square top line presented towards the judges.
Let's go to the rear.
Transition looks nice, but it looks just a little bit wooden how that foot placement just comes across. But we'll come back to that. Rear position. Rear position looks quite nice. I'd maybe just have a little bit more stretch through the legs. Um, Elbows are quite close together, which is what we want. Um, and I just think the only thing I'd maybe say is because her hair is covering the waist, are we losing the bottom part of the taper?
Hmm.
So that's something always to think about. You don't want your back to your hair to cover your back too much, the waist. Glute shot looks nice. T pose looks nice. The only thing I'd say in the T pose is that we could do with just spiking the front heel off the floor. It'll just give a little bit more roundness through the glute and a longer line through the leg.
And let's just see her walk off the stage as well.
This is nice, nice presentation. And wait for that look back. Love that. Really nice. As we walk away, we could maybe just keep the glutes lifted a touch more. And I think as she arrives into this front pose, we could maybe just play around with the foot position. Obviously, we're trying to make the quads look as not as small as possible, but we don't want them to be over dominant. So I'd maybe just play around with the foot position and the hip position as well. Maybe to slightly pull the left hip, sorry, the right hip backwards and push that left hip forwards a little bit more. So maybe we get more of the left glute. But I do think if she just stood up straighter, it would maybe rectify those issues straight away. But she looks
Definitely.
nice.
Perfect. I mean, like I said, I think there's little snippets of what she brings her personality in, where
Yeah,
she's walking in, her eyes are on the judges straight away.
yeah,
She's not looking at a spot she's walking to. She's not looking at
yeah,
the floor. She's looking directly at the judges. And like you said, these little bits as well that shows her personality, looking back
yeah,
as she's walking away, the little look during her transitions. But as you mentioned as well, I think one of the things I noticed straight away was that maybe the severity of leaning forward, if we,
yeah,
when we look at some of the other girls who've achieved
yeah.
pro status in the amateur ranks for the fifth model division, we can see some differences here. So,
Hmm.
overall rating, Emma, what are we giving? What are we giving her?
I'm gonna go. What am I gonna go with? I feel like the stagecraft and the presentation was really nice, really authentic. She looked supernatural and confident. It's just really the leaning forwards on the front pose and the transition. So I am gonna go with a B minus.
No problem. Well, look, she's she tags a lot on the both BTS pages. So I've seen her journey from the amateur ranks going to the pro
Yeah,
qualifiers. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. And yeah, huge good luck in the next pro qualifier. I think you might be doing the Spain show this weekend. So I wish you the best of luck for that one. We're going to do one more fit model comparator. We're going to go
yeah,
all the way over to the United States.
awesome.
And this is the Optimum Classic. So let me just grab this. So we got Gracie, who just competed in the Finn Model division in the Optimum Classic, which is in Louisiana. So I'm not sure how many shows she's done before. This is not a pro qualifier. This is just a NPC show. So video done by Gilco. Great job as always. But what we are seeing here, we're not seeing the walk on or walk off. So we are just going to be looking at this prospectively in just in a central view. Emma, what's your thoughts on Gracie first time looking into opposing?
Yeah. So hold there. I don't know if we can pause there. So first thing I would just want to identify is that before Gracie even hits that front position, there's like a small moment of a transition where the ribs are really expanded. And it just opens up the torso and the upper body way too much, where it makes everything look slightly thicker than it should be. And this is not something we want to do in any division. It's really about keeping the diaphragm controlled and not pushing out through the ribs ever. Sometimes I think when we think about arching through the back, that continues up the spine. And so if we're arching through the full spine, it's going to push the ribs out, it's going to push the midsection out, and it's going to actually make that whole core area look a little bit bigger than it is. I can tell from looking at Gracie that she has a really tight waist, but we're just not executing that through the posing.
So let's just carry on because I think this was the ending of her routine. So we'll probably go back to the front pose again in one
There's
moment.
like a little moment here. It's that little push outwards. Now we can see obliques. She's lean. She is super lean, but there's just the what's happening is I think that Gracie is maybe arching and pushing the left glute up too much. So we're really not sitting into the right hip. And in order to really get that hourglass, that fit model shape, this is really about shape. We're not getting that because she stood really high on that left hip, which if you're lifting up through your front hip, it's going to throw everything out and it's going to throw it out of alignment as we continue up the frame. Um, the transition isn't too bad. I definitely like to I would play around with that just to give a better line, a longer line through the leg, focusing on really getting that hourglass shape again. This rear position, um, because we can see the back, it completely exposes what's going on with the lats. and it immediately I'm looking and thinking, wow, she's really lean. Now, when you can't see the hair, you actually it hides the level of condition that an athlete has. So all this is doing is drawn me to the fact that I already thought she was a little bit lean for this category, but now because of the posing and the hair placement, I'm thinking she's too lean for this category. Now, this is where with your posing, you can actually hide these moments if you use the hair where it should be placed, if you're clever with your posing and you can almost pose down rather than making yourself look harder, leaner, more conditioned, and more muscular. We just don't want that, especially for this division. Again, the elbows were a little bit wide for me. And even in this position, we're not looking necessarily for a lat spread. There is an element of opening up the lats or at least pushing outwards into the shoulders. So we create that V taper through the top line down to the waist. The waist looks smaller. The glutes are going to look fuller and rounder as well.
Mature CF hit the final transition back to the front.
Yeah, and do you know what I think also makes plays a huge part is the color of the bikini. It's like it's on the same color spectrum as her tan.
That's what I
So
thought.
yeah, it's blending too much with the skin tone. So that's something else we need to consider as well. There's lots to take on board.
Lost taking on board. This looks like her first show since 2023. So
Okay.
congratulations, Gracie, on
Yeah.
getting back on stage and obviously competing in your new division for yourself. So hopefully it's only up from here. What is your rating for Gracie?
I'm going to go with a C minus. There's heaps of room for improvement, which is obviously fantastic. But for Gracie, it's really about making sure that the posing showcases her physique as close to the fit model division as possible.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment she is posing in a way where we're seeing too much condition and we're not relaxing into the poses. So the fit model style is a very relaxed style of posing, or it should look super relaxed. So there's just a bit too much going on, and it's pushing the boundaries when it comes to criteria as well. So a little bit of work to do, but with some posing corrections, she would look completely different.
I completely agree. Look forward to seeing what happens next race. Okay, next up now, we're going to go into the IFBB Pro ranks and we're going to go into men's physique because we did see the return
Yeah,
of one Andrei Deiu, who took second place in the Mind Pro.
yeah,
Third place was over in New York, so he's back again this weekend over at the Legion Fest in Reno in Vegas. So we want to just touch on Andre because it's been quite a few years since he has been back on stage, and as we can see, look, his physique is incredible, incredible back. He's no stranger from shows in the UK, as he actually started at a fit model show back in, I think it's 2017 maybe.
yeah.
So it's nearly been a decade since he's been involved in the bodybuilding industry. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
keen to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
Andre Dieu's posing for those men's physique competitors or those who are
yeah.
looking to compete in men's physique one day. What is your thoughts of Andre's posing?
So, firstly, I want to say that men's physique is probably one of the more difficult categories to make look as natural as possible. It comes with you've got to spend a lot of time really mastering the craft, the foot positions, and just making sure that the whole frame really flows. Um, the front position is really hard to get sometimes because of the foot placement, the hip placement, really knowing where you sit into the hips, making sure that we're not making the pose look awkward. And obviously, what I want to just draw attention to in this front pose when he hits it again is, sorry, my dog's just fallen off a suitcase.
I'll pause
so,
this here.
so in this front pose, let's just pay attention to how relaxed the and how much the lower half flows with the upper. With men's physique, in this front position, what really throws off the poses a lot of the time is the placement of the extended leg, so the left leg. And you can see here, like the feet aren't too wide. He's really stood super straight on the right leg. So we're getting a sweep of that right quad, which then adds flow to the upper body as well. Do not think because it's men's physique that the lower half doesn't matter and the placement of the lower half doesn't matter as well. We're in a time and a place with the men's division with the men's division that lower body adds to the upper body. We're no longer in a time and place where you can be really, really small on the lower half or not worry about the lower half being part of the pose. It matters so much now. I always say the men's physique competitors are like mini bodybuilders. Like they've got development through the lower half. It adds to the flow of the physique. We're still to some degree showcasing an X frame, especially through the front pose, but just not the same X frame that we would see on a bodybuilder. Um, Andrei here, perfect lat spread. The lats are nice and wide. The shoulders are the highest, widest point. Sometimes I see in the men's physique division, the guys losing the delts a little bit because sometimes they push down on the chest. We make that top line look rounded, and here we don't. We've got beautiful taper. The pecs look full. The shoulders are super full, and it showcases exactly what the judges want to see. Hand onto the waist as well, having that little bit of tension through the right arm. Beautiful transition here. This is one of my favorites for men's physique. I really enjoy that transition. In the rear position, the only thing I would maybe explore in the rear position, and I think this just varies from athlete to athlete and their preference, is just having a little bit more engagement through the lower. He stood very straight through the lower half. And I do see this varying through the athletes, and it just can either add just a little bit more. It can sometimes make the waist look smaller because here at the moment, Andrei stood with the legs completely straight. Now, if you were, so that means that there's not a lot of difference between waist and legs. If you were to ever so slightly switch the legs on, slightly arch through the lower back, it may bring the illusion of the waist being smaller. So it's definitely something I would trial and error. And I'm not saying it would be right, but I definitely play around with it to see what difference it made to the physique. In this rear position, we can see that Andrei's alignment is slightly off. He's got the right shoulder is sitting slightly higher than the left. And then, so what I would typically do with this is with my athletes, I've actually got a really great men's physique called Satchel at the moment, and he competes in the NPC. What we do a lot of the time in this rear position to make sure it's absolutely perfect, we draw lines on the check-in service. So we send a video. I would draw lines of alignment to make sure the elbows are in line, the shoulders are in line, and then it shows us where we need to work on and correct. And sometimes it's just a case of we need a little bit more mind to muscle connection on one side that might just be a little bit less switched on or engaged, or we've got some sort of congestion through the scapula, through the traps that needs releasing out, so we can make sure we're opening the lats wide evenly.
And let's just transition back to the front.
Transitions here. Transitions have become more and more important for the men's physique division as well. They're bringing, I love this, they're bringing so much more to the stage and to their craft. And I've really enjoyed watching that evolve over the past 3 to 5 years. It adds just a completely new layer to the men's physique division. So I'm here for it. It gives them an opportunity to really showcase their physique a little bit more. So it's great to see.
I think obviously, as we know, like fifth model, for men's physique, you've got two poses. You've got front and back. And a lot
Yes.
of men's physique competitors, they like to try and have a signature move of their own that makes theirs different to
Yeah.
somebody else's. And with Andre, we see what his signature move is, and that is right at the end where he finishes it off
There's a
in a bit of a
little,
slight
yeah,
this pose before he
classic
leaves.
clean. Yeah.
And I think that's always something that just stands out and you can
Hmm.
really make it your own. So, Andre, rating, what are we going for?
Well, I'm obviously going to give him, I'm going to give him an A plus just because that rear, it would have been an A star, but the rear pose is just slightly higher on that right side. It's so subtle. Obviously, we're a pro, we're going to look for perfection, but yeah, A plus for
And
Andre.
given the fact that Andre wants to get back to the Olympia, which we hope he does
Yes,
this weekend, that's why I try and push for that A star. But Andre, look forward to see what happens at the Legion Fest this coming weekend. We're going to go on to the pro ranks for bikini. Now, have you come across Marissa before?
yes, I have.
So Marissa, as everyone can see as well, obviously a amputated forearm, which is why she's under bionic. Marissa really made it her own. I love the design of it as well. So
Mm,
she returned to the stage this weekend in the My Pro IFBB bikini ranks. So obviously hugely inspirational woman compared to bikini athlete, bodybuilder, however you want to spin it. It's inspiring given the fact that what she has to compete against and the difference that she has versus other competitors. But we are going to specifically look at the posing and her return back to the stage. As we see, quite a few comments there from people we already know. Laura Lee, the reigning bikini Olympia champion, saying that she's absolutely killed it. But Emma, let's talk about her posing. What are your first initial thoughts?
I think really, really nice posing and presentation. There's really not a lot to pick apart here. She's smiling, she's engaged. The walk looks really nice. I'm just going through. It's the first time I've actually seen this. She's smiling, she's connecting with the judges. Front pose looks really nice. Transitions look nice as well. Rear position, little moment with the judges there. The only thing I'd maybe say in that transition is not to bend the front knee. Rear position, I would just maybe just bring the hands slightly lower, pull the elbows together a touch more, just so we can maybe just see there's a lot of hair as well. Now, when she hits that rear position, we're just losing the cap of the shoulders at the top of the frame. So that might just be something to consider and play around with. There's a small transition where Marissa goes from the rear position. She does a little swing to the right, sits into the right glute. And there's just a little bit of softness for me there. So I would maybe just see if I could just switch that out for something else. Love this little Ashley Kay pose at the back here with both hands onto the waist, walking forwards. She's smiling, she's connecting, she looks confident. Little transition here before the front pose. Glutes look amazing. So let's look at this pose overall. So we can see there that we're creating that nice long lean look through the leg. First of all, remember in this division, it's still all about the glutes. It's about your bringing a little bit of shoulder cap, but not too much. Tapered waist, really looking for that hourglass frame. That's just a little bit more extreme than what we would see in the fit model division. Arm placement is nice through that right side. We've got shoulder cap through that right shoulder. We've got the shoulders squared off to the judges. We can see tapered down through the waist. Glutes look really nice, round and full. And maybe see if she could lengthen a little bit more through the right knee and give maybe a little bit more hamstring. But again, that would be something that I would trial and error. It might work, it might not. So just always good to just play around with it. Transition here looks really nice. She's going for that more model-like transition here in the glute shot. The glutes look really full, keeping them lifted as she steps to the rear. I mean, we can really nicely see the bottom of the V-tips and the glutes there. So yeah, I just think elbows a little bit tighter, feet maybe a little bit wider in this position. And I think now as well with the addition of the fit model division, we can actually now afford to just showcase a little bit more in the bikini division. I think obviously what we see on the pro stages, especially on the Olympia, the girls are, they're really at that higher end of the bikini condition. So can we take the feet a little bit wider? Can we slightly externally rotate through the quads? Will that show a little bit more condition through the hamstrings and the glutes? Would it just bring the taper through a little bit more? Would it give a little bit more of an X-frame with the feet slightly wider, elbows slightly dropped, seeing that top line so we get that upside down triangle through that rear position? Now just pay attention to this transition. This one here just gives a little bit of softness to that right glute. But what I will say is she does have very full, bubbly glutes, which is exactly what we want to see in this division. And now what I will say is in that rear pose as well, Marissa has really fantastic calves. But are they a little bit over dominant in that rear pose? Now, if we were to externally rotate the quads just a touch, would it give a little bit more quad sweep? And then would the calves look a little bit smaller? But these are all really small intricacies, um, because overall, this posing is really, really nice.
No, absolutely.
Super
And I think
natural.
you hit me down the head there. A bit like with Andre, there are small little differences that's going to
Yeah,
make it different from the next person above you to the person below
yeah,
you. And we can see these are very small differences in the Ivy Pro ranks
yeah.
versus the amateur ranks. So what is your overall rating for Marissa?
I am for Marissa, I'm going to go with a B plus, just because I think we can just maybe refine a touch on the transitions, on the rear position. Um, yeah, so B plus. But with those corrections and just making sure that the glutes constantly stay lifted, she'd easily come up to, an A plus for me.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to finish off with one final competitor, and this is from one of our UK competitors, one of our UK IP pros, this was her third show, I want to say. Was her
Yeah.
third show? She's done Pittsburgh, she's done New York, and now she's done Miami. And this is, of course, Winter Adams. Now, she actually qualified for the Olympia in her first ever pro show that will happen in the UK a couple of years back. Now, she
Mhm.
didn't compete last year. She's back this year. She took third place here in Miami. I'm not sure if she's got any more shows lined up, but what we're going to do now is this is the wellness division. So, Emma, is this the first time you've seen this video of Winter?
Yes, yeah. I follow Winter, so I have seen some of her posing, and very early on in her career, we've done some posing together. So I am familiar with Winter. So great to see her working through these pro shows, and excited to see her continue to evolve through this division. She's a fantastic athlete.
Well, look, as you know her better than me, let's go through her posing. What is your overall thoughts?
Yeah. So for me, some of the arm movements, I think there's some transitions at the very beginning where the arms are coming up very high. And I think when we're at a pro level, you have to really think about posing past the ends of the fingers, past the ends of the toes. It's like a full body. Can we pause here, please,
Oh,
on that
sorry.
rear pose? So we can, yeah. So when we come back to that rear position, let's just pause on it. But in the meantime, I'll just kind of talk about, the stage craft, and in this front pose especially, there's just a little bit of refinement that can happen. So we'll let Winter walk back in. We'll start with this front pose. So she hits it a lot better here. It looks a lot more refined, but when she hits it at the end, the upper body's leaning forwards a little bit. We're losing that nice upside down triangle V taper that we're looking for in the upper body. But in this front pose, she looks superb. We've got that really thick density through the quads. We can see that quad sweep coming through. She's decided to showcase more of the quad than the hamstring in this front pose. For me, I would obviously, again, trial and error. I'd like to see how it looks just swinging the right glute, the right hamstring around to the front just a little bit more, because obviously we really want to have, like, it's like looking like a centaur, isn't it? So I would like to see a little bit more of the hamstring in this front pose to see how that would change this pose overall. If it would add to it, does it take away from the waist taper if we see more of the hamstring, and just playing around with that. But overall, I think that this it looks good, but can we make it better? Now, pay
Let's
attention
go.
to the arm movement here. It's a little bit not uncontrolled, but it's just as she presents past the face here and drops the arms out to the side. I feel like we can just make that a little bit more fluid, a little bit more softer, make the hands softer, maybe keep it, don't throw the movement away. Keep it consistent so it's just a little bit softer, I think, a little bit more refined. I like this moment where she switches, places hand on the waist, rear position, resets the hair, hands come down. Now, this rear position looks really, really good. When Winter walks to the rear, she sets her feet up a lot wider in the rear position, and I don't think she probably meant to do this. So let's just continue and watch. Glutes look fantastic. We've got V tips there. Glute shot before she walks away. Little flick of the hair. Glutes staying lifted as she walks away. Could maybe lift them just a little bit more. Rear position for me is just a little bit too wide here. With kind of throwing off the structure from upper to lower because the foot placement is so wide. I mean, she still looks impressive, which is amazing, but I would have just liked to have seen the feet a little bit further in, like she had them when she was at the front of the stage. But lower half development, adductors, hamstrings, glutes, we can see there that Winter's very impressive. Nice through the walk-ins. Just final pose here. leaning forwards now. Interesting then. So in this front post here, Winter has actually given us the version that I was talking about to begin with. Now, I don't know, this might be a mobility thing, but we can see now that Winter is showcasing the hamstring and the glute, but actually the upper body is pushing forwards. So sometimes this can be it can be just a waist control. It can be that as Winter's arching through the lower back, she's actually pushing the diaphragm and the ribs out too wide. So she could work on pulling them back in, closing down the ribs and shifting the shoulders. At the moment, the glutes are here and the shoulders are kind of over here a little bit. This top line needs to come on top here. And that's because the ribs are pushing outwards, the waist is pushing out. So just closing down through that waist, shifting the shoulders back on top of the hips for alignment there, and just refining that front arm as well. I like this. I think it's important that she showcases this variation of the front pose, but I do think the variation that Winter does at the very beginning looks better on her physique.
We'll just play out.
Nice kiss to the judges there. Say thank you, little flick. So I'd refine that ending. So you see this front pose. Now we can really see the difference, right? And I feel like that variation at the beginning for Winter is very much so her signature. And I think it works really well for her.
Amazing. Okay, so this is the final comparator we're going to assess. Winter, what is your rating?
I am going to give Winter an A minus. I don't think there's heaps to work on there, but again, the intricacies and the refinement as well.
Well, look, Winter,
Sorry,
awesome
my
work. I mean,
dog's
look,
going crazy at the postman.
no, the last three shows you proved yourself as one of the leaders, if not the leader, in wellness division for the UK. Of course,
Absolutely.
one of the key European competitors. So I'm hoping to see you back on stage because you just absolutely killed it over three of the biggest shows that you could pick in America. So well done to yourself, Jason. Of course, awesome video again from Gilco. So okay, Emma, we've gone through bikini, wellness, men's physique, and fit models. So as always, guys, one thing I would say, if you haven't watched this, drop a comment below, drop your Instagram handle, just so that at least that way we'll check your account out and maybe we can feature you guys in next week's episode. As always, as we like to focus on posing, make sure go on the bio, click onto the Posing Pro website, check out especially the app. I mean, Emma, just give me a little breakdown on the Posing Pro app. Anything new that's going on?
Yes, yes. So we have a weekly video check-in service. It's like you check in with your coaches, your prep coaches. You should be checking in with your posing coach as well. We our athletes send in a video check-in. We do video analysis. We give them back direction and corrections that they need to apply to their posing. They do that on a weekly basis. So it means that we just fast track our posing progress. Anyone that is new, it's a great way to kind of learn a lot quicker. So you're not having big gaps in between seeing your posing coach. And then also for the athletes that are a little bit more experienced, it means that we can really refine the corrections and also just make sure that we don't migrate away from any corrections because sometimes it's really hard to override new corrections that are given if you're someone that's been competing a little bit longer and you've got ingrained bad habits that we need to override. So it's really fantastic. It allows you to also train your own eye. So you can really start to see, yeah, that shoulder was a little bit too high, or oh, that front pose, I was not engaging my midsection. You actually start to analyze your own posing as well. So the goal is we really get you guys to understand what we want to be showcasing, presenting to the judges. There's access to tutorials. The fit model tutorials are available to purchase now. You can purchase them separately or you can get them within the check-in service as well. And you get mobility drills, flexibility videos, and then obviously you get one-to-one interaction with myself as well.
Ultimate convenience tool. We all know when it comes to competing, a lot of time can be put into training, into resting, recovery, eating. So if you can have something on your fingertips for
Yeah.
during your lunchtime before you go to bed, first thing in the morning, then yes, it is the ultimate convenient tool. So do check out. I'm gonna leave a link in the bio. That's a wrap, and we'll see you guys next week.